Hi, friends, and welcome to the Next Best Thing podcast. I'm your host, Andrea Cline-Thomas. Now, I am here to help you strategically navigate all of your career and life transitions. And as we like to say around here, a pivot and a plan B are not required. Why do we say that, though, that a pivot and a plan B are not required? That's because over here we plan. We plan for abundance, transitions, and we plan for transformations because the only thing constant in life is change. And I just don't want y'all out here flat footed. And right now, right this very moment, is the perfect time to develop a plan for next year. It's actually my favorite time of year. Now, I know a lot of people say they don't like New Year's resolutions or they poo poo vision boarding, but let me be perfectly honest. Corporate is not loyal. These are not your parents' careers. The same companies that gave out the gold clocks for working 40 and 50 years, our generation, we're not getting the gold clocks, okay? Because we're not going to last that long, at least most of us in these corporations, because so many are firing people. They're laying them off. They're offering buyouts, citing the volatility of the economic situation. That is out of our hands. But for some of y'all, you may be able to leave on your own accord and you can leave for something that is better. That is our hope, that no matter what happens, you got a plan to go to your next, to continue with your plan A. But more than just a job, I know we talk a lot about jobs here. What do you want for your life? What have you been putting off year after year? 2024 is a great time to at least take one step closer to doing that very thing. Again, I can't say it enough. Time waits for no one. So here are some cliff notes about how to do just that by running back some clips that past guests have shared. We're going to start with Mandel Crawley, the Chief Human Resources Officer at Morgan Stanley. He's one of the most powerful people on Wall Street, yet alone Black men. But before you do anything, these are the questions you need to ask yourself first.
I tend to ask myself, four questions, and I hope your listeners, can benefit from this. When it comes to, is it time to move and pivot? The first question is, am I learning? Am I still learning? Second question, am I still growing? Third question, am I still having impact? Am I having the impact that I want? Or am I in a seat that allows me to have continued impact? And then last but not least, which is super important and learning a bit of your story, I know you can relate to this, am I happy? Right? So am I learning? Am I growing? Am I having impact? Am I happy? And if you can't answer yes to all four of those questions, it may be time to start thinking about your next. And then the question I oftentimes get, okay, all right, if you once you figured out that maybe it's time, how do I sort through, what I should be going to, right? Some folks have a view of that, right? Like I love how you talk about, I'm still doing my plan A, right? It just looks a little different, right? So it's not a plan B, but it's like, how do I, take the things that I enjoy and apply them? And there's this framework that I use. It's 3 concentric circles. One is, what am I really interested in? Right? What gets me out of bed in the morning? 2 is, which I think is really important, what are my superpowers? Right? What are the capabilities that I have that are not easily replicated? And then number 3, back to the word that I used before, is growth. Where's growth happening? Because whether you're doing the corporate hustle like I'm doing, or the guy we both love, you start to, you launch your own business and firm, you have got to be where growth is ultimately happening, because growth ultimately drives optionality over time. And I surely benefited from that.
Now, Mandela has been at Morgan Stanley his entire career. He started as an intern at the firm that was acquired by the bank, but within the company, he's had various jobs that have allowed him to work his way up the ladder. Now, this is important because your next doesn't always mean that you need to blow up your entire life. That's what voiceover artist and our episode 2 guest, Nia, puts into perspective.
I feel like every day I'm coming across an article, and maybe it's just because the algorithm knows I'm a risk taker, but every day I'm coming across an article that says, like, live your best life. This is how such and such quit their job and is now doing this or that. I mean, there's a ton of voiceover articles like that. Live your best life. And there's just so much draw, I think, right now to call people into making these big moves that a lot of people started to make in and since the pandemic. And it's not always that. Not every call to make that big move is your call. I think we all need to just take a moment to sit with it, to figure out what it is that I'm actually like, what am I feeling? Because I think, as we both articulated earlier, sometimes it is, I need a total change. Sometimes it's not that big. Sometimes it's like, I just don't like the way this role is. I'm not growing in this role. Maybe there's another role within my company. I don't like this company. Maybe there's another company. It doesn't always mean just make this big, abrupt move to just blow up your life, and just because it's not always that easy. And I think that one thing I would say, I hope I didn't make my story sound like it was so easy and seamless, because I think that I left out a lot of stuff that was probably, really, really tough. But the thing that I recognize about my journey, it was timing, divine timing, that got me to a place where I needed to be. But also it was the right thing for me.
But with that said, it's great if those goals that you have for yourself scare you just a little bit. Now, you may be capable of a lot more than you're giving yourself credit for. And as my brother Rudy shared on this podcast, don't be so quick to count yourself out.
At a young age, we didn't have any examples around us of anything that I see now. There was no examples of it in our sphere whatsoever. We didn't know any people that went to Ivy League schools or, ran companies. We didn't have that type of experience around us whatsoever. But I used to read about all these guys in the magazines. I didn't even read books, as a kid. So I didn't like reading books. I liked to read of the things that were happening in real time, So reading about these CEOs and these business leaders, I was really always attracted to them. And then, I really got into reading biographies because I was like, how did he do it? Like, how did he get here? And then, you start to realize that they all started from somewhere, right? And they all built their careers, and they all took advantage of opportunities different ways, And there was one that stuck out with me. It's my favorite book, and I like to share with everybody. It's The Operator. It's about David Geffen, who became the most successful guy in Hollywood and in music. He was a college dropout. He didn't even go to college, and he started in the mailroom, and it showed his story about how he understood leverage, how he understood opportunity different from everybody, but he had the hunger, right? To understand it and hustle it. And it changed my life because he's the one who gave me the confidence that, like, almost anything is possible, like you can do anything, right? It's really up to you. And to get at the heights that which he got at and how he did it, I had more education than that guy did. You know what I mean? So why not me? And it's the greatest story that I've ever read of, starting from zero, and how you understand all the different pieces around you, and what they mean, in a lot of different ways. So, I've always just had the curiosity to understand, like, you don't have to learn things on your own. People are ahead of you that have done it really well before it. You have access to reading how they did it, and there's so many different nuggets you can, because you don't have to make the same mistakes that they did. You could do it even better, So
Now, I don't want to sugarcoat it. This is not easy. So, Brandis Daniel, the CEO of Harlem's Fashion Row, asks, when are you going to roll up your sleeves and get to work?
What is it that you want to do, and why do you want to do it? And then what is the first step you can take. So if the first step for me, when I did that was, well, let me choose a date. Let me find a date, because a lot of times we say we want to do something, and even we're moving and we have action towards it, but we've not given ourselves a deadline. And what happens when you don't give yourself a deadline is that thing moves a million times. You 2 years in and you're still writing that book. Like, you forget 2 years, you're 10 years in and you're still writing that book. 10 years in and you're still talking about this thing that you want to do, and you've been taking steps towards it, but you've not created a deadline for it. Like, the thing needs to happen. Babies have a due date. They don't stay in their mother's wombs for years. There's a due date. And so what's your due date?
Babies have due dates. I love that. I remember this time last year, I was so mad at myself because I had not started a podcast. I had been talking about it, but I didn't do what I needed to do to get it done. I had done a photo shoot, but I didn't have a website. I didn't have all the equipment. I had not done all the research that I needed. And I told myself, again, this time last year, I said I was going to get it done by the first quarter of this year and just figure it out. I felt like I had given so much up from my past life as a reporter. But the one thing that I was just not willing to part with was the ability to interview people and learn about their lives in a way that could help someone else. Now, would anyone other than my mother listen? And she is a super fan, by the way. I had no idea. I had no idea if anybody would listen. And I really wasn't concerned about that. I just wanted to keep a promise to myself to finally just honor what I wanted to have to do after spending a career doing things that everybody else expected of me. Now, I'm no super influencer. I'm still awkward Black girl Andrea, but now this is episode 37. That means for 37 weeks, I have been providing content. Hundreds of people, hundreds of you have subscribed. We need more though. I appreciate y'all. Just go ahead and help your girl out. And thousands of people have downloaded or watched an episode or part of an episode of this podcast. And I really am blown away. I don't know that many people. So it's kind of wild to me, honestly. And I literally started from scratch. The only motivation was because it was something that I wanted to do. That's it. I just wanted to do it because I thought it would be fun and I just wanted to do it. What do you want to accomplish in 2024? The one thing for yourself, not your family, not your career, that you want to look back a year from now and say, you know what? I did that. This year, I just wanted to get the podcast done every week for the first, few months. After I would finish editing an episode, I would text my friend Ronnie and say, oh, another episode is done. Oh my gosh, I can't believe I did another one. So the goal this year was just get the episodes done. First, it was like, get the first episode out. Then it was get to episode 5, because a lot of podcasts fall off. They don't have more than 5 episodes. Then the statistics said even more fall off. A majority of podcasts fall off after 20 episodes. So I was like, let me go ahead and get to 20. When I got to 20, I was like, you know what? I might know a little bit about what I'm doing over here, right? So we are at 37 episodes. The goal this year was just to get episodes done. Next year, though, I'm leveling up a bit. Next year, this podcast has goals and we'll have a more targeted approach, which I'll talk about in the next few weeks. Again, this podcast exists to help you design the life of your dreams. I don't want folks out here living the life that you feel like you have to settle for. The things that people have told me in professional environments that I should accept, knowing that I had the capacity for so much more, especially when it came to money. Yeah, we don't have to do that. We don't have to do that. We have to be strategic, but we don't have to do that. We don't have to live up to people's limited and low expectations for our lives. And so this podcast is almost like an act of resistance, because so many times I have been told that I should just accept less and just be happy to be there. And I reject it completely. I think you should too. All right, that's it for my rant. That's all for now. We'll have so much more next week. I hope you're having a great holiday. And remember, your next is always within reach.